Hello everyone, welcome back to our RPG creation series. I'm excited to dive into our next episode where we will be enhancing our game environment and adding an important aspect to make our game feel more realistic: gravity. Now, you might be wondering, why don't we have gravity in our game yet? Well, it's all about the components we're using. So far, we've been leveraging the character controller component in Unity. This powerful component helps us handle character movement and some basic interactions, but it's important to note that it doesn't automatically incorporate physics like gravity. That's because the character controller is in essence a simple collider, and it gives us more control over how our character behaves, but with the trade-off of not having natural physics such as gravity. This isn't a drawback, as it allows us more fine-tuned control over the movement of our character, especially when dealing with more complex actions that require precise handling. However, for a realistic and immersive RPG game experience, we need to have elements such as gravity in our world. In this episode, we'll dive into the process of implementing gravity in our game environment, giving our character a more grounded feel. So, are you ready to defy gravity and then apply it? Let's get started.
Alright, let's dive in and start with our environment. Head over to the Unity Asset Store. It's a goldmine of ready-made assets that can save us tons of time. What we need is the old seaport environment. Just type in the search bar and here you go. It should be the first one popping up. Click on it and then click on Add to my assets. I've already added it, so I won't be repeating this step. Now, let's get back into Unity and add these assets to our game. Navigate to Package Manager, select My Assets, and there you should see the old seaport environment. Click on Download and wait for it to finish. Once it's done, click on Import to bring the assets into our project. Okay, once that's done, let's take a moment to explore what we've got. Unity assets usually come with a variety of things such as models, textures, materials, prefabs, etc. The old seaport environment is no exception, and it has a bunch of cool stuff we can use in our RPG. So go ahead and take a look around, familiarize yourself with what's included. Once you're ready, we'll start incorporating these assets into our game world. Get excited, this is where the magic happens. Perfect. Before we dive into exploring our new environment, let's keep our project neat and tidy by making a few prefabs. First, create a new empty game object and name it Cameras. This object will serve as the parent for all our cameras objects. For now, we're going to add the main camera and the FreeLook camera to it. Great. Now, we're going to create a prefabs folder in our project panel. This will help us keep everything organized. Next, we'll drag and drop the camera's game object into the prefabs folder. This will create a prefab of our camera objects, meaning we can easily reuse it in other scenes or projects. We're going to do the same for the player object. Drag and drop into the prefabs folder to create a player prefab. Fantastic! Now, we're ready to dive into the new environment. As I mentioned earlier, the old seaport asset comes with a pre-made scene that we're going to use for our first moment. Now, what's a moment? In game development, a moment is a highlight or a unique event within the game. This could be a dramatic cutscene, a challenging boss fight, or a beautiful panoramic view of the environment. It's something that makes the player stop and say, wow, that was cool. They're memorable instances that the players experience, making the game more engaging and fun. But for now, let's focus on integrating this new environment into our game and setting up the basic of gravity and falling animations. So let's dive in and see what we can create. Alright, let's navigate to the old seaport folder in our project panel and open the scene folder. Now double click on the dock scene to open it up.
Great. Now everything looks pink, right? So we need to convert our materials to use the universal render pipeline. To do this, we'll go to Window, then Rendering, and select a Render Pipeline Converter. Next, we need to select Built-in to URP, and make sure to check the boxes for Render Settings, Material Upgrade, and a Read-Only Material Converter. After that, click Initialize Converters. Then Convert Assets. Now, look at that, no more pink assets, right? Oh wait, we still got this water material to deal with.
Just navigate to the water folder, select this material, and change the shader to Universal Render Pipeline Lit. And there you go, all sorted. Now that our environment is ready, let's bring our player and camera's prefabs into the scene and position them appropriately. Delete the trailer camera from the scene as we won't use it. Also, remember to update the follow and look at settings of the free look camera to your hips game object and focus point respectively. Alright, let's hit play and take our character for a little stroll around our new environment. You can see now that our character isn't affected by gravity when moving around the scene. It's time to fix that. Let's head over to our player state machine script. First, we need to create a float variable called gravity value and set it to -9.81. This is the standard acceleration due to gravity. We'll also need a vertical velocity variable to manage our downforce when the character is not falling, but might be interacting with objects that could slightly elevate it. We want this force to keep our character grounded. Next, we'll go to our base state machine script and ensure that our update method is protected. Then, in player state machine, we'll create a new update method and call base.update inside it to execute the update method in our parent class. Now, let's use these new variables to add gravity inside our update method. We'll check if our player is grounded using controller.isGround. If the character is grounded and vertical velocity is less than 0, which means that there is no upward force being applied, we want to apply a small downward force, let's say -2, to keep the character grounded. Otherwise, if the character is in midair, we'll apply a downward force equal to the gravity value. Next, we'll convert this downward force into a vector tree so we can apply it using the control.move method. We'll create a variable called gravityMoveVector, which is equal to new vector 3, 0 on the x, y is vertical velocity, and 0 on z, and then call control.move gravityMoveVector times delta time. The reason we multiply delta time twice is to ensure consistent movement across different frame rates. First, we scale the effect of gravity on vertical velocity by the time that has passed since the last frame, and then we scale the movement of the controller by the same factor. And that's it. Simple, right? Now, let's test our game and see if gravity is working as expected. Fantastic! It seems like gravity is indeed being applied correctly. Coming up in our next video, we'll be adding a new falling state and we will be implementing a lock-on state. The falling state will activate a falling animation when our character is in midair, adding a touch more realism to our game. And as for the lock-on state, this will be our first step into the combat mechanics of our RPG, allowing us to focus on an enemy and maneuver around them. I'm sure you're as excited as I am to start bringing some actions into our game. If there are any questions about what we've covered today, don't hesitate to ask in the comment section below. Remember to like this video if you found it useful and subscribe to stay updated with our RPG development journey. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.